This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Enter offer code TWIST at checkout to get 10% off. And GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit gotomeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and sign up for a 30-day trial. Today, Jason talks to Vicarious co-founder Scott Phoenix about how his company is innovating in artificial intelligence and what to expect from AI in the near future.
So if you look at the availability of computational power alone, and if you track that out, the trend continues. 15 years from today, our computers do more operations per second than there are neurons in all the brains of all the humans who are alive right now.
Wow.
And so, it's inevitable that we're going to get to the point where we have very, very intelligent machines that can help us solve really hard problems.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups, the program where we talk about technology, startup companies, people who are trying to change the world. And this year is going to be 2016, the year of artificial intelligence, we think. Every 5-10 years, these really advanced technologies like virtual reality or AI, it's kind of like the Moby Dicks of our industry. They keep coming. We keep thinking somebody's going to figure out artificial intelligence. We think somebody's going to figure out virtual reality, and that it's going to have a profound impact on the lives of citizens, civilians, people in the real world. So far, AI, not much. When's the last time you used it?
I'd say every day.
You'd say every day?
Yeah, I would say every day.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
People, we see Watson, and this is our guest, by the way, today. Scott Phoenix is here. And he is from Vicarious, which you can see at vicarious.com. Not a bad domain name. And Vicarious Inc. on Twitter. And Vicarious, obviously, we'll get into what you guys do in the artificial intelligence space. But wait a second. I'm in the technology business. I don't interact with AI at all. I use all the latest technology. When am I using AI? Explain to me.
So AI is like the magic pixie fairy dust that goes into absolutely everything, and you don't even know that you're using, but 100% of your Google searches use AI, 100% of your Facebook newsfeed views are using AI. Virtually every technology in some way or other benefits or is connected to AI, and if they don't now, they will in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years.
Okay, so let's start with those two. The Facebook feed is doing some kind of, because this is where the definition of AI, I think, becomes important.
Right.
So with artificial intelligence, people think, hey, there is a computer who can think or, can understand the world and make decisions in the way humans do.
Yeah.
But is the Facebook feed doing that kind of artificial intelligence, or is it just what they call machine learning?
Yeah.
And what's the difference for a civilian out there? Because when we look at it, it doesn't feel like artificial intelligence. It feels like whatever's getting liked the most shows up on my feed. Is that artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So let's introduce a distinction between the two different types of AI.
Okay.
ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, and AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Okay.
And so the narrow intelligence stuff is what you see every day in Facebook and Google and Watson and all these Siri, all these different technologies are using artificial narrow intelligence.
Right.
And the analog I like for that is it's sort of like our animal ancestors. You see frogs and fish do all kinds of really intelligent looking behaviors. And they're not smart the way you and I are smart. They can't reason about new environments really well. They can't build tools. But they're still kind of smart and they're doing really advanced behaviors. And that's where we are right now in the evolution of our artificial intelligence systems. We have narrow intelligence. We use it every day. It's great. It makes everything better. And then the next horizon is mammals for biology and artificial general intelligence for computers.
Got it.
So
we're in the reptilian phase.
We are in the reptilian phase. We are in the Cambrian explosion of intelligences.
Yes, we're just getting out of the water. There's lizards everywhere, and they do interesting things to, find food. But if you put them in a new novel situation, they're not going to take what they've already learned and apply it in some new way.
At least not very well.
At least not very well, right? It's going to be very rudimentary.
It's going to be rudimentary, and it's probably not going to work that well. And that's kind of what we see even in self-driving cars these days.
Explain.
Well, the Google self-driving car gets confused if you put it in a parking garage. Or a friend of mine was telling me a hilarious prank you could pull is if you just tape a stop sign to the back of your car and drive in front of the Google self-driving car. So there's all these things that it will do that are kind of nonsensical because it is a manually constructed narrow intelligence. It doesn't learn to drive the way you and I learn to drive. It learns to drive with big data and with all kinds of kind of hand-coded things involved in making it. And that's the distinction between this sort of narrow artificial intelligence and the general stuff that we're building at Vicarious.
You mentioned IBM's Watson there. Obviously, they've been working for a long time, beating all the chess champions. I guess Deep Blue is what they used to call it, and that would be the perfect example of narrow, just chess.
Just chess.
It's a finite set.
Yeah. Or just, even the current version of this, I would say, is just Go.
Just Go, right.
Google's Go players, it plays Go.
Right, and Go is a much more complex game than chess for some reason. I am not a Go player. I've played it a little bit. It's where you flip the black and the white coins.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, you have
stones.
black and white stones,
yeah.
and there's dots, and if you surround one, you get to flip the color to yours.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Why was Go such a monumental challenge compared to chess?
The search space is a lot bigger over potential actions that you could take. So you just sort of blow up the number of possible board configurations you need to consider if you're trying to consider all of them the way that the Deep Blue machine tried to consider all the possibilities for chess.
Because there's so many dots, so many places you can put something.
Right.
And with chess, you got a certain number of pawns, certain number of rooks. There's a certain...
It's a smaller board, that kind of thing.
They could play out every possibility.
They can play out a lot of them. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of them, and so they can do pretty well at chess.
And this is where Moore's law comes into effect, and artificial intelligence in 2016 is a lot different than trying to do AI in 1986, let's say.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
And it's a lot different. Why? Just the magnitude of the CPUs?
Yeah, so we've got cheap, ubiquitous, huge amounts of CPU and GPU processing power, cheap, ubiquitous hard drives, fast internet, and lots of training data. And I think the last category is oftentimes overlooked. The reason why our artificial narrow intelligences work so well is because we have all this labeled training data to give them. The Go player, it played more games of Go than any human being could ever play in their entire life. And that's part of why it was so good at it. And similarly with Facebook's newsfeed ranking service or Google search ranking, they leverage really big data sets and really big compute clusters in order to get something that is narrowly intelligent. And
in the Facebook case, an example of that might be something like, hey, let's show this viral video to men, women, this age group, just any number of possibilities, and see what the length of time to watch it is or something like that, and then try to make some sort of assumptions, and it just learns what viral videos next would make you watch longer?
That's one example of something you could optimize for using this sort of narrow AI set of strategies. You could also use it for classifying different faces, auto-tagging faces. When you post pictures, it's getting pretty good at that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different narrow use cases, and they invariably involve very large data sets and big clusters that they train to do a very specific thing.
Yeah, and we didn't have that large amount of data previously because we didn't have the storage.
And we didn't have the internet. That's the thing. People posting so many photos every day and labeling them themselves is what led to these algorithms becoming useful. Because if you don't have that, then you can't really get very far with them.
So let's talk a little bit about the self-driving car then, because now you have Tesla has, I don't know how many tens of thousands of the Model S with the upgrade for self-driving out there. Then you have Waze data.
Yeah.
Obviously, the folks at Google have their self-driving cars, but more important than their self-driving cars, they have Waze data and Google Maps data. And then what have they learned from all that big data, do you think? And who's got the huge advantages? Do you think Google's got the advantage or do you think Tesla's got the advantage? There's really two different questions, I guess, when you look at those data sets.
Yeah, so can you play that back for me? What is the question?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the question myself. But anyway, the general rubric of self-driving cars is two major players, I think, that have a lot of data. We're talking about these data sets. So you have on one side, you have the Tesla data, which is a small number of cars, but they have computer vision on them. Then you have Google, which has a minute number of test vehicles, but they have all that Google Waze data, right? Google Maps data. They know people driving approximately, but they don't have the cars viewing stuff. Who do you think is going to figure it out first?
It's really hard to place. Uber is super interested in this problem too. There's lots of different companies that are trying to get into the self-driving space. And I think that there is also a matter of degree in a lot of the self-driving questions. Are you talking about end-to-end, doorstep to work, driving completely autonomously with no human intervention, no steering wheel?
That's like the level 4
Level
category.
4, or is this just following the vehicle in front of you and making smart choices about lanes? Like there's a lot of different levels there.
Which is sort of level 2, I think.
Yeah.
Level 2 is when you have two different things being taken over by the computer. So if you had adaptive cruise control and you had lane control, I think that's level 2.
Yeah.
Level 1 is just one thing being done by the computer. Level 2 is 2.
And so anyway, I guess the meta point is that it's way too early to say who's going to be the big winner on self-driving car. And frankly, I think the real answer to the question is that we all are going to be the big winner.
For sure.
Because I don't think it's going to be one player that figures it out. I think there's going to be many different alternative approaches and different ways to get to that same solution. And they'll be suited to different markets like self-driving trucks or Uber-style transportation systems. There's a whole big matrix of possibilities in here we can play with.
When we get back from this very important partner message, I want you to tell me how far you think we are to having computers drive the majority of miles driven in the United States. And obviously there's a lot of complexity there, but I want you to answer it from the frame of the artificial intelligence, the machine learning gets good enough for us to get through it when we get back from this important message. All right, listen, I love Squarespace. I use it all the time. If you go to Jason's Syndicate, if you go to Launch Festival, if you go to Launch Scale, if you go to Launch Angel Summit, you will see Squarespace after Squarespace after Squarespace site. I use it for everything I do because it looks beautiful. It's affordable and it's easy to use. They're always adding new features to Squarespace. That's why I love, love, love the product. It's my favorite CMS, content management system to use, because everybody on my team knows how to use it now. And when I say, hey, fire up a new site, boom, just like that. Within an hour, I've got something that looks professionally designed. It's so intuitive, so easy to use. There is no coding required. And it's really state-of-the-art tech. It's super secure and stable. It never goes down. It's like rock solid. We've never had a problem with it. And it's trusted by millions of people, some of the most respected brands in the world. Go ahead and start your free trial today. There's no credit card required, which to me is always the tell. If somebody wants you to put a credit card in, it's because they're not confident. They'll let you build your site. You don't have to put your credit card in, and you will get a free domain name when you sign up for a year. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, please use the offer code TWIST to get 10% off your first purchase. Super important that they see our loyal listeners signing up with that code, TWIST, This Week in Startups, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Go ahead and follow at Squarespace on Twitter, and everybody thank at Squarespace for supporting This Week in Startups and the important conversations we have here about entrepreneurship. When I say beautiful website, you think Squarespace, okay? It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's easy to use. What a deal. Thank you to my friends at Squarespace. Hey, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. Hey, one of our favorite topics, artificial intelligence, machine learning. The computers doing our work is upon us. This is going to be the story of the next couple of years. It's been brewing here in Silicon Valley, and it feels like we're hitting a tipping point. Scott Phoenix is with us. He is with a company called Vicarious. You can see them at vicarious.com. Just a little background on Vicarious. They have raised a total of $72 million from people like Elon Musk, Ashton Kutcher, and Mark Zuckerberg, Aaron Levy, Peter Thiel, just a ton of interesting investors in the company, which is usually a sign that they're on to something really interesting. And I'm going to get into what you're doing over there at Vicarious. But when we left, I was kind of obsessing over self-driving cars as the artificial intelligence sort of the moment discussion. Is it really?
You know, actually, I would take the other side of that argument. I think that cars are interesting, but the real question for you, even Jason, is how many robots do you think the average American has seen in the last year?
How many robots have they seen in the last year? Okay, let me think of that through. The average American.
In Wisconsin.
Yeah. So obviously, a drone is a robot.
No.
Autonomous.
Yeah, I would say autonomous robots that actually do things in the real world. The answer I'm angling for is probably zero.
No, it's absolutely zero. So I thought it was a trick question. Like maybe drones could be considered a robot because they're smart enough to not fall. Maybe?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't give them that much credit.
Wouldn't give them that much credit.
Yeah.
Because they do have avoidance systems coming into, but they're not using any kind of machine learning for that.
Right. I mean, some of them may even be using machine learning for it, but I think the meta thought here is that we have great hardware for building robotic arms and for doing all kinds of tasks.
They're not doing anything in the world.
But they're not doing anything in the world. And why is that? And what needs to change to get us there? And I think that's the story.
Why is it that we
AI.
don't have robotic arms on the desk right here, right now, moving my coffee from one
Moving my
place to
coffee, exactly. Clean up. Why don't we have Rosie the robot from the Jetsons?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And we had the Roomba. That was like, what, 10 years ago? And I mean, some people are obsessed with that thing. Do you have one of those?
I don't have a Roomba, no. So my version of this story is that it's because the software just doesn't work yet. The algorithms, the AI that we need to go in these robots is just it's far from where it needs to be useful.
Right.
And that's the area that we're focused on at Vicarious. And I think it's where it's the one key that if we unlock, it makes the world really interesting.
Got it. So the robotics hardware is there. Obviously, Elon has robots in the Tesla factory dialed in to make cars.
Right.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
That's the story of robots is
Right.
you need a robot to do something for you, like make hamburger patties or whatever it is, and you build a machine specifically for that problem.
Right.
And then
which would be narrow robotics in a way.
Narrow robotics, exactly. And not only do you build it for that problem, you need to manufacture this thing to move within 1 millimeter tolerance every time for 5 million times in a row without servicing.
Right.
And so your robot, A, is going to be built for just one problem. And B, it's going to be built to ridiculous tolerances so it never breaks. And so the cost of that robot is going to be astronomical compared to what it should cost.
Well, and you have to make one for every use case. It's not generalized like C-3PO or whoever.
Right. And so this is like the world of computers before we had a standard central processor that you could write software for. Everything was custom, and that's robotics today. Everything is custom, and it's very high precision, very tailored to the particular task because the software is bad.
So is that what Vicarious does? Are you going to make artificial intelligence specifically for robotics?
Well, that's the beauty of this whole artificial general versus artificial narrow intelligence. Right. And the framing that we adopt is we're interested in what is it the brain does to make us so good at so many tasks, whether that's self-driving or manipulating objects or recognizing photos or any of these use cases. Using tools, all of this stuff are things that come very naturally to humans.
I mean, when you think about our brains, is it just the internetworked nature of our brains?
It is the neocortex.
The neocortex.
Yeah. So you have a reptile brain in your head, so do I. And then on top of it is this thin layer of tissue that's the size, shape, and thickness of a dinner napkin if you lay it flat, called the neocortex. And that's where all the magic happens. That is where you store all of your concepts. It's where you control your motor actions. It's where you recognize things visually, how you process sound and taste and touch and smell. And the interesting thing about the neocortex is it's a really similar circuit. It's like a repeated circuit all the way across the whole surface of it. So much so that if you take a tissue sample of one person's neocortex from these areas that are processing different modalities and give them to a trained neuroscientist, they'll have some trouble telling which samples from which area. It's a really similar circuit.
Interesting.
And if you could unlock the secrets of that circuit, you can do a lot of stuff that humans do now. And that's the goal of Vicarious.
Interesting. So does that mean you're actually studying the neocortex in order to try to be inspired to find the solution? Or do you just think, hey, we can infer through psychological studies, from human factor studies, how a human goes about solving problems or understanding the world, and instead of from a biological circuitry perspective, a wetware perspective, you can go from a behavioral perspective and then build up from there.
So we go from a first principles perspective.
Got
it. The extent that we look at brains when we're building our artificial brains is the extent that the Wright brothers looked at birds when they were building airplanes, which is actually more than you think.
For sure.
So the reason why they don't flap, their plane didn't flap its wings is because they noticed that birds could fly without flapping their wings, and so that became a design choice.
Right.
And in the same way at Vicarious, we're looking at what are the information processing principles that are universal and that we can understand how evolution may have come up with them when thinking about how does it develop this circuit to do everything for us.
So what would one of those be? Have you?
The role of time. The role of time in action, I would say, is a big one.
Okay. So, by the way, explain what first principles are to people, because we hear that term thrown around a lot. Obviously, Elon Musk talks about first principles a lot in his approach to cars and to the Mars mission and SpaceX. What does the term first principles mean when you're approaching a problem as a startup founder?
So I think about it in terms of inductive bias. So like when you're designing a machine learning algorithm, there's this thing called the no free lunch theorem, which is to say that there's no one algorithm that's perfect for everything. An algorithm is only as strong as the assumptions that it makes. So the reason why MP3 did a good job of compressing audio is that it made the assumption that audio is going to have multiple channels, and the first channel is going to be pretty similar to the second channel and the third. You're not hearing two completely different songs out of each ear. And so you can just store the first channel and then store the diff for each subsequent channel. And that would be an example of an assumption it's making.
Right.
That if violated, it loses some of its compressive power.
Right.
And so similarly, when you look at my face, you notice that the pixels that make up my face aren't moving at random all over your visual field.
Right.
They tend to stay together. And when I move my head, my eyes and my nose move with it. And that's an example of an inductive bias that evolution probably would have come to take advantage of when evolving the neural circuit that's in my neocortex.
So when we look at stuff, we're looking for the diffs. We're looking at what's changed.
Well, that would be
which is why camouflage came up probably as a counter to that.
Right. But so I would say that when we're saying like, what do we mean by first principles? We're saying, what are the fundamental like unchangeable assumptions or very rarely to be changed assumptions that exist in reality that are generated from physics that would be mirrored in a circuit designed to understand that physical reality.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, do you have customers for your company, or is it all theoretical, 50 PhDs in a room, like Applied Minds, which was the company that Google bought? Or was it Applied Minds?
DeepMind.
DeepMind, sorry.
Yes.
I was thinking of Applied Semantics. DeepMind, which Google bought. They didn't seem to have any clients. They just were.
So they actually had a product. Funnily enough, they had half the company was people working on a product.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it publicly known what that product was? Because I've never heard that.
I think they talked about it. I think they said something about it being shopping related. Yeah, they had a shopping product.
Oh, you know what? I think I do remember this. And I never believed that. I thought that was just cover.
No, they
CIA
totally had a
stuff
product team. And then they cut it as part of the acquisition. They just cut the product team.
I wonder what they were trying to do. Like if you click on this image of a shoe and it has these general characteristics, we should show you the next shoe.
You got me. I'm really not sure. I'll have to, next time I see them, I'll have to ask them for what it was.
So you guys
we're 50 PhDs in a room. We have a product in mind.
Is it literally did I just pull the number 50 out of the air? Wow.
It's approaching 50. We're not exactly 50, but so we're a bunch of PhDs in a room. We're solving fundamental research problems on how do you build generally intelligent systems.
Huh. With no customers.
Well, I mean, the customers are infinite. If you can solve this problem,
but no customers currently. I'm saying it's not like Google or
I don't know.
Yahoo said like, hey, we'll give you $10 million a year to do X. Or the CIA.
And I think that's the kiss of death in my mind for AI research startups. Is as soon as you have your first customer and you haven't solved the fundamental research problems, then you start making it more and more narrow, and there you are again stuck in artificial narrow intelligence, and you haven't cracked the thing.
All right, when we get back from this next break, and the final break, I want to ask you a pragmatic question as a founder, which is, how do you sell a group of investors on funding for multiple years basic research when we get back on This Week in Startups? Hey everybody, let me take a moment to tell you about GoToMeeting, which I use all week long. Yes, I'm meeting all the new potential incubator companies and looking at their products, and I do it. I've taken my meeting game to the next level with GoToMeeting. It is so easy to use. I recommend it wholeheartedly. I've used it for years. It's so easy to collaborate with clients and colleagues from anywhere. And so, be a meeting MVP no matter where you are. You can use your phone, you can use your tablet, you can use your desktop. It's so easy to get these meetings going because you can just do it with one click. I have it in a Chrome toolbar in my Google Calendar. I put something in my Google Calendar or somebody else puts it in mine. One click, I add a GoToMeeting, and then everybody just clicks on the link and magically everybody's in there. Perfect voice over IP, or they can dial in. It works so well. And one of the little features that I love to use is I will have my executive assistant on the phone with me taking notes. You can also record the call, and we of course do that sometimes if we want to take notes. And there's a little chat room in there, so I can chat with people and take notes, and I give startups my notes, my candid notes on what I think of their companies. So all these great little features. And one thing I love is I always have one or two people who are calling in, they're on the road, they've got noise, they don't know how to mute their phone, they forgot their headset. You, if you're in control of the meeting, can mute the participants. So you ever be on one of those phone calls and somebody's like in a wind tunnel, and you're like, who's doing that? Well, you can just go mute, boom, if you're the conference organizer. It works so beautifully. Those are my little tips for you. Screen sharing and passing it off to other presenters, another wonderful thing. I'll have a meeting with 2 or 3 people, and we'll pass the presentation wand from one to the next. It just works. It's so easy for you to step up your meeting game. So I want you to do this right now. It's time for you to put out your best performance. Go ahead and be the meeting MVP of your next meeting. Just start your 30-day trial at gotomeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button. That's, once again, go to gotomeeting.com and click the Try It Free button. You are going to love it. I use it all the time. It gets my highest rating. I love GoToMeeting. Okay, let's get back to this episode. Okay, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis, and this podcast is twice a week. If you get a chance and you see it on iTunes and you want to write a review about the podcast, I get these little alerts every week that tell me, hey, this person wrote a review. And I love when you give feedback on the program and you write a great review. Now, that's for the 4 and 5-star reviews. If you happen to think that I'm a horrible interviewer, you just send that directly to jason@launch.co. Do not post a 1, 2, 3-star review on iTunes. Just send it to me directly. Tell me how it could be better. I kid, but I do love those reviews. Thank you for doing it. It's really nice. It's like, no matter how successful you get at something, it's just nice when somebody takes the time to write one of those reviews on iTunes. I find it so nice that somebody would do that. You know, like 100,000 people listen to the episode, but there's only like 1,000 people who've written reviews or whatever, some small, minute percentage, but it means so much to me when they do. All right, listen, I am here with Scott Phoenix, like the city, and he is the co-founder of Vicarious. Vicarious, I think it would be safe to say Vicarious is a little bit of a mysterious company. You haven't been out there a ton.
Yeah, we're pretty stealth.
Pretty stealthy. Thanks for coming on the program as a stealthy company. You got the dream list of investors. I mean, I could go through it, but it's a little bit gratuitous. Jerry Yang, Vinod Khosla, obviously the great Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel. How does one get a collection of investors like this to fund basic research? When you went to them and you pitched the company, did you say 4 or 5 years of basic research and then we'll figure out what our product is? Or do you have like 2 or 3 products that you said, we're going to pick one of these 3 products. It'll be a software platform that will provide to other developers to do this. How do you raise this much money from this group of investors?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the answer to that is that you go to them and you quite honestly say that this is the most important problem that humanity will ever solve. It is literally the last invention that anyone will create.
Wow.
And
explain that for a minute. What does that mean?
If you can build artificial general intelligence, then the system can invent anything that you could possibly invent, and probably far better.
Far better, far more.
Far better, far faster. You know, a machine with a brain the size of a planet that thinks for 30,000 years for every second that passes, a problem like cancer or fusion power is going to be like a child's math problem to us. And so that's the essence of the pitch, is like, this is a problem that will be solved in our lifetimes. It's a matter of who and when. And we can make the when happen faster. And in terms of who, you look at where have great technologies been built in the past. They've been built in startups. And what is the right approach to solving this problem? Well, the mainstay architectures that everyone's using right now, the convolutional neural network, is something that was inspired by neuroscience from 1975. And we've learned a lot about the brain in the last 30 years, and you can think of Vicarious as arbitrage between what we've learned about the brain in the last 30 years and what is in the mainstream AI research community today.
What have we learned about the brain in the last 30 years?
So I think there's a bunch of really important things that are missing from the original convolutional neural network architecture. And one is the role of time. So these networks that they train to recognize photos don't have a sense of temporal continuity. And so it'll see an out of order picture of a bird, and then it'll see another one of a completely different bird or a bird in a different position, and it's warping all over the place all the time. And I think the human brain captures temporal continuity as an essential part of both of its learning and its recognizing and processing and inferring. So
to say that in layman's terms, if we were looking at a bunch of pictures of birds, or we're looking at birds in nature, we might understand that, like, this is an old bird, or this is an old photo of a bird, or this is a bird that's young, or
no, it's totally different. It's look at how we train the modern neural network systems that are used today, and the way they're trained now is they show it a picture and they tell this is the label of this picture. and it could be labeled couch or something. And then they showed a new picture, a totally different picture, and they give it another label. It could be couch, could be something else. That's the way the system's trained. Now, imagine if you're a baby and all I ever show you, you can't see anything else but just out of order slideshow sequences of photos with labels attached to them. I don't think that baby would learn anything. I think learning involves time. I think it involves interaction and touch and multimodalities and all of these things occurring simultaneously. It involves exploration. It involves imagination. And those are missing ingredients in many of the mainstay architectures. Some of them, I think some people are increasingly paying attention to this stuff, and that really excites me. I'm glad that more people are really engaged with how do we build systems that are more like the human brain.
And explain to me how, over time, an algorithm, an AI, what would you call an AI instance? What do we call the AI program? Because it's, without sort of giving it life, what do you call this AI program that you write the code and then you launch it and it goes and learns? What do you call it internally? Do you call it a bot? Do you call it, give it a name? Do you call it a simulation?
We create them and destroy them so many times a day in experiments that we're doing that it doesn't make sense for us to name each one individually.
Gotcha.
I imagine once we have it set up and it's a more permanent thing, then we may name it. But just like Siri and Cortana right now have names and people refer to them by gender, and they have kind of an identity and a personality. And I think eventually so will many other AIs. And
at some point, you'll be able to make an AI that builds AIs.
I think
I know
in the
that
long
sounds
run,
very me being clever, but it is actually.
I think it's you being right.
It's something that's going to happen where you'll have enough PhDs in a room where you'll say let's create a simulator that creates simulations.
Yeah.
Has anybody done that yet, or is that just too far?
Yeah, I think in order to do that, you actually have to have solved the problem of artificial general intelligence. Because if the AI is smart enough to build itself, it's probably also smart enough to cure cancer and to make flying cars and to get us to out of the solar system.
Right. So there's some other things we would put it on first.
Yeah, exactly.
So how close are we to general AI? And if I asked you that question,
isn't that the $1 trillion question?
Sure, but let me ask you this question. You seem like you're 30 years old or 40 years old. I'm not sure. How old are you?
I'm 33.
33. Perfect. 10 years ago, you knew what AI was? You had heard about it?
Yeah. 10 years ago. This has always been something I've been really passionate about.
10 years ago, where did you think artificial intelligence would be today? Or if you went back to yourself then and put yourself in your 23, 24, 25-year-old's mindset 5, 10 years ago, could you imagine where we are now?
Absolutely. You know, I think so. If you look at the availability of computational power alone, and if you track that out, the trend continues. 15 years from today, our computers do more operations per second than there are neurons in all the brains of all the humans who are alive right now.
Wow.
And so, it's inevitable that we're going to get to the point where we have very, very intelligent machines that can help us solve really hard problems.
Right.
And it's just a matter of time.
And it's interesting. We're going to look back on this period when the first couple of things were, show me things that I'll like on Facebook.
It's shoe shopping and exactly.
It's literally find me a pair of shoes, set an appointment with another person for a business development meeting, like X.AI is the one that, sets up your calendar, right?
Yeah.
Or
they start out as simple and silly things. It's true.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of the AI revolution, incidentally, is powered by what happened in video game consoles in the 90s.
Explain.
And the early 2000s. Well, the GPU the graphical processing unit, is something that was designed for video games, and as it turns out, it's really good for machine learning. And
how did that occur? That jump that somebody said. I mean, I understand why GPUs were made. People were like, "Hey, how many frames? How many pixels? The more frames, the more pixels. The bigger the TV screen, the better this looks." Right?
Yeah.
You walk up if you're coming across the room now and you see somebody playing that Madden or soccer or basketball game.
It looks like TV.
Yeah, you could mistake it as you get maybe when you get to 5 feet or 10 feet away. Then you realize, hey, this is a video game, and I see they work with the joystick. But if they didn't have the joystick, you'd think that's a real game.
Yeah.
So I understand why GPUs were built. But who made this connection that GPUs would be a better way to do artificial intelligence machine learning than CPUs?
Actually, I don't have the answer for that. I'm not sure whose idea. Maybe it was even NVIDIA's idea originally, but just the types of operations that are done in machine learning algorithms that are primarily these matrix operations are the same kind of matrix, or very similar kinds of matrix operations that are done when you're calculating a 3D game world.
What is a matrix operation?
You imagine a giant Excel spreadsheet.
Got it.
And it's full of numbers, and you got to multiply them together to, imagine a polygon or to understand the weights of connections between neurons.
Got it. And so now, so when you guys do these kind of computers, do you guys use AWS, or are you building specific hardware for AI? Is there
we're not on the hardware business. We're
Right.
we're all about bits and not atoms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great hardware out there. There's lots of cloud computing providers you can use to do this. We have some of our own racks. We also use some cloud computing providers. Compute is almost free nowadays, which is a great thing.
But if you can figure out a way to accelerate this sort of path, does it help, or is it that the software is so far behind the computing power?
More compute always helps.
Yeah.
If you could give me a computer that was 1,000,000 times faster tomorrow, I would take it. It would be awesome.
And is that where quantum computing is going to sort of catch up to AI, and at some point those two disciplines will start?
Quantum AI.
Well, quantum AI. I mean,
It's possible.
Thinking out loud that the quantum computer movement, if they can really get it dialed in, and you have multiple states, and the AI gets powerful enough, it would be able to do a magnitude more computation, right?
The theory is, the promise is, and maybe that's where we'll end up.
Yeah.
It's so early for the quantum computing industry to be able to say, oh yeah, this is totally what AI really needs right now is a quantum computer. It's too early to say.
Yeah.
But maybe I can imagine
The quantum computers are too rudimentary in terms of how you could code them, right?
and they're not useful yet. They're still science projects.
It's still science projects.
And
yeah.
but maybe someday that could really be a breakthrough.
So when we look at generalized artificial intelligence, AGI,
Yeah.
artificial general intelligence, the $1 billion question, or $100 billion, maybe actually it would be the $1 trillion question, clearly.
It's the size of the entire world's economy.
Exactly. So if we can figure out generalized AI, what will the world look like when we do solve that? What do you think the characteristics of everyday life will be for our children? Because we think artificial general intelligence will be here for our kids.
Yeah, I mean for us and our kids, I would say it should be.
We'll get the tail end of it.
Depending on how old everybody is.
So 20, 30 years from now, we start experiencing some really generalized intelligence. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's a fair guess.
If I said 10 to 20, would you say optimistic?
Yeah, I would say that would be an optimistic guess.
20 to 30 feels realistic. 30 to 40 feels very doable.
Yeah, I think those are great ranges. In fact, the ranges you gave, I think, match up pretty well with the expert surveys on the matter.
Yeah, I've done a little reading. Not a lot, but enough to get myself in trouble. So what will our kids experience then? How will their lives be different on a day-to-day basis?
That is a great question, and it's one that I can make up a bunch of stuff.
Let's do that right now. Let's make up stuff. We'll just go back and forth. You make something up, I'll make something up.
Okay, we can trade back and forth.
It's like dueling artificial general intelligence world. So here we are, it's 2050.
Yeah, so right now,
we wake up, what happens?
In 2014, you get prosthetic hips, you get prosthetic arms. Imagine if you could have a prosthetic chip for your brain that lets you think, 1,000,000 times faster than you think today.
Right. Okay, now I got to do one. You wake up and you think about what you want for breakfast, and a robot makes it and brings it to you.
Even better, the robot already knows what you want for breakfast.
That's even more demented.
Right.
Yeah, precogs.
Precogs. Precog robots know what you want for breakfast. They make it perfectly. It's delicious.
Okay. I decide I'm sorry, it's your turn now.
Oh, I
did the breakfast.
I thought I threw in the precog layer in that.
You did? Okay, so now it goes back to me. My daughter wants to do a startup company, and she realizes that it would be great if the following product or service existed in the world. So she says, Alexa, build a service that allows people to do X, Y, and Z, and in 17 minutes, that company comes back to her.
Yes.
And it's done.
And it's done, and it works.
And it works.
Yep.
That's literally what it would be like, right? Like
magic, yeah. Life is magic.
Because the idea that, like, right now with the app economy, right, this platform of apps come out, and there's, billions of people who have access to apps, 2 billion people. You basically have to have a vision for what the app should be, and then spend a year building it and raising money, and then 2 or 3 years growing it and making people aware of it.
Right.
There'll come a time where you could just say, Siri, make me an app that allows a taxi to pick me up and know the time that it's going to take for it to get here. And boom, just make it.
I'm just going to keep raising the ante on you, Jason.
Okay.
Instead, Siri's be like, hey, Jason, you're going to want this app in 5 minutes.
Which app, and how does it know?
Well, it just watches your behavior patterns. It knows that, man, your life would be 5% more fun if you had this app.
Okay. Our food delivery comes tomorrow. Our food delivery arrives at our house, and everybody in San Francisco gets a genetically modified quinoa that will lower people's blood pressure and give them help them sleep better because there's been anxiety because there's recently been an earthquake, and the AI realizes that if it modifies this strain of corn and gives it to everybody, humans will feel a little more chill after the earthquake that happened last week.
Yeah, let's make it voluntary. I think
no, it's involuntary. They decide.
They just decide.
No, it just comes. But you've already opted in.
You've opted in.
Terms
That
of service that you didn't read.
No.
You've
got 30,000 years for every second that passes. You're going to read the terms of service. It doesn't bore you at all. You just snap your fingers and you know.
Okay, that's true.
And you've thought through all the consequences of it, so you know what you're signing up for every time.
Okay, so you've signed up that your food will be genetically modified by Procter & Gamble's AI cloud
or by
service.
your own cloud. Why don't you just have your 3D printer print you your own food?
Okay, yeah. So my 3D printer will genetically modify my food in my best interest based on my mood to make my mood
whatever you want it to be.
Elated and indefatigable.
Sure. If that's what you're going for.
Yeah, I picked indefatigable and elated.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I also okayed that my artificial intelligence bot service.
Yeah.
I'm going to name it Chester. My Chester decided, I told Chester that if I get too exuberant, to throw me a day or two a year when I feel the blues.
Okay.
But when I feel the blues, I would like it to play me an uplifting series of blues that I can wallow in for a little bit and then feel uplifted by the end of the day.
Great. You and Chester, you sound like you got a whole thing going.
Feels like it.
Yeah. Welcome to the future.
And then there'll be no jobs, right? Because
there'll be so many jobs. Too many jobs.
What would the jobs be? Because, it feels like if you can
wish everything into existence. Thing is,
is it really going to be like that? We'd just be able to wish shit into existence?
We're in fantasy land here, but I think that as T goes to infinity, we approach a world where things get wished into existence. They almost get wished into existence now, but it takes a couple of years for them to get here. But that time span has gotten shorter and shorter. And if you've read the singularity is near, or you subscribe to any of the sort of singularity philosophy, then I think that there's a good argument to be made about accelerating pace of change.
I just figured out what I most want from this generalized artificial intelligence.
What is it?
I'd like to have another season of The Sopranos that takes off from the last one.
Done.
That would be the most pleasing to me.
Got it. Done.
So it knows that whatever happened in that diner, I would like one more season. And it knows my favorite characters.
Simulates them for you.
It simulates it, does a 3D model, and builds me my own personalized, whatever number of episodes there were of The Sopranos, 9 or something. I got my own 10th season.
Yeah.
Genius.
Wow,
that would be actually possible when you think about it.
All this stuff's possible.
But I think it's actually possible in our lifetime that I could say, make me a Star Wars episode without Jar Jar Binks. Make me the Return of the Jedi, where the Ewoks are Wookiees, and Lando Calrissian and the Millennium Falcon blow up in the Death Star, and make it a little bit more dark, like The Empire Strikes Back and Blade Runner.
And
because it's just a little bit too.
Yeah, Star Wars meets Blade Runner. That sounds like great.
Yeah, just make Return of the Jedi a little bit more like Empire and Blade Runner. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I don't have to even tell it how.
No, exactly.
Just make me a darker version of Return of the Jedi, because it was good, but it was not dark enough. That would actually be possible.
All of this is the whole point. This is the appeal of what it is we're building, is you get to have.
So let's peel back to the time frame that is not
50
where
years
everything's
from now.
possible,
Right.
50 years from now, where we're in that 20 to 30. What will the things that we'll see in our lifetime? So, hey, we hit 50, 60, 70 years old. Is it going to literally be able to say, hey, here's all the possibilities for curing diabetes and cancer, and we're going to go ahead and do that, you think? Is it going to have that profound of an effect?
Yeah, I think right now a lot of life sciences and chemistry is done by people swirling around beakers. And to have robots that can do that and can read all the literature and reproduce all the experiments, I think science can go a lot faster. And I think robots can help us do science as a force multiplier the way we do software today. And so I think that's
mind-blowing.
That's a really a nearer term, totally awesome outcome of having intelligence that's more general.
I never understood, because I did see some people at a hackathon one time create a robotic system for doing lab testing.
Yeah.
Because right now, lab testing, like the state of the art was literally people, like you're saying, with beakers, putting,
Pets, yeah.
like literally putting things into, putting the test tubes into grids. And it was like, why is this being done by a human? Why isn't there not a generalized robot? And then you think about that, and you could have a football field sized factory with 20 layers of scientific experiments going on.
All the time.
24 hours a day. And at what cost? $1 billion?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing. This is what you going back to the question: how do we raise all this money from all these people? And it's because AI is the ultimate technology, and unlocking it is a thing that really unlocks human potential and helps us to reach completely new frontiers as a species.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to think about employment.
Well, okay, so going back to the jobs question, the universe is a huge place. A huge place.
Let's talk about America.
I mean, America is a big place too.
Yeah.
But like, there's two different arguments or two different lines of thinking on this. One is you go back 100 years and all the jobs people had were very different than the jobs they have today.
Half the
but like,
people.
They had cobblers and like whip makers and all kinds of stuff that just isn't done now.
Right.
And now we have like social media consultants and I don't know, there's all these different jobs that now exist.
Sure.
Bloggers. Podcasting. What are we even doing here? So, the jobs of the future are going to be different. But there's going to be, just as there are many different jobs now, there are going to be many different jobs in the future. And having robots help us do things is something that unlocks possibilities of building new types of things and creating new opportunities for sky cities and flying cars and all the things that you wish were here but aren't. And those things are going to be driven primarily through human ingenuity plus like enhanced robotic execution and in collaboration.
It's interesting to think that. I might disagree, because I do think that there's such a large number of people that if artificial intelligence, the robots specifically, let's just take the short term.
Yeah.
I invested in this company, CafeX, and it's pretty clear, like the idea of being a barista, unless you opted into that and it was like an artistic art form for you, is completely unnecessary. The idea that people spend their days pushing buttons and then, taking a carafe of milk and essentially, pushing it up and down on a steamer, like it seems insane that this is occurring. But yet that is a job for some large number of people. That'll go away. And
I'm not convinced of that, actually. So the best baristas are the ones that regularly taste the espresso coming out of the espresso machine and make sure that it's properly.
Don't think a machine would be able to do that better?
Taste? I'm not convinced. Taste is a really tough thing.
But even putting beyond taste, if each of the people who takes the coffee rates it, it would know and be able to tweak the algorithm to make it better based on their rating.
Do you really, every time you get a cup of coffee, do you really want some text message asking you to rate it? So
Sure.
They can
I do it for Uber. It takes a fifth of a second. I mean, I know what's a 5-star driver and what's a 3-star and what's a 1-star. So do you.
I mean, when I want a cup of coffee, I like when I enjoy the cup of coffee. I also kind of like the human connection. Like maybe you're right. Maybe the world.
You know what? People really love to talk to the operator for a second when they connected the calls.
Yeah.
But none of us have ever done it. You and I have never done it.
Yeah, it could be that in the future, all coffee will come from robotic coffee factories. It's possible.
And waiters, gone. I mean, the concept of waiters and cash registers, that's already going away.
People have been saying this for 10, 15 years. Like, I don't argue that in the long run, many of the jobs will be different. We'll have robots doing all kinds of stuff for us. I think that's true. But I think the dystopian view of all the jobs being gone overnight and robots taking over all the different restaurants and all the different stuff, I think is a really aggressive and probably inaccurate fantasy about how the technology will come to bear.
You just said we're going to have like these generalized robots will be able to learn how to do anything.
Yeah, in the 30 to 50 year time horizon.
Right. So that's always what concerns me, is that bridge. So when everybody gets that robot, there would be no manual labor left.
Over time, the robot isn't going to start being able to do everything.
That's true.
And so, just like the internet, right? The internet made travel agents a lot smaller, and it didn't happen overnight, but it happened. Yeah. And now those people who were travel agents do other things.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay. The economy moves on, and there are new opportunities.
See, that's the thing is, I think none of us know. It is like a black swan type event. Artificial.
Yeah. It is a once in a universe type event.
Exactly. And it could be what either ended or transcended other species in the universe or other planets. I mean, we actually don't know the impact of this. Is there a way for us to theoretically come to any kind of conclusion Or is there any kind of mental model for a post-AI world, a generalized AI world? I mean, we don't have
novels. I think is the best we can do. This is really,
pure postulation. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't know what the future is going to look like. You can guess based on what the present looks like.
Right.
And sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. But I think science fiction authors over time have had some pretty good ideas, and many of them have come true.
Which ones do you particularly, because you're in the thick of this, do you look at and go, wow, they nailed it?
Wow, they nailed it.
Yeah, they nailed it, or my God, spooky how, because there's a thing, I have a theory about this, which is I think sometimes because those of us in the tech industry are techno, whatever, we love technology enthusiasts, we're techno enthusiasts, we've watched all the science fiction, we know the canon, and then in our minds is what science fiction people have told us the world would be like, so therefore we are steering the world to their vision.
Yeah.
In other words, they planted the seeds in our brains, right? So you can't be in the artificial intelligence field without thinking about HAL or other artificial intelligence systems, right?
Yeah, or Rosie the Robot.
Or Rosie the Robot,
The
whatever it
Jetsons
is.
was awesome.
Yeah, but who got what right? Like, do you have things that you?
I think that's the thing about science fiction is that you can only say who got what right after it's happened. I saw this picture. I think it was some French book of illustrations about what the future would be like, and they had something that looked kind of like an iPad that they were looking at, having a FaceTime chat with a friend.
Wow. Magical mirror.
Yeah, a magical mirror type.
The magical mirror book.
Yeah. So so you can always go back and be like, oh, they got that right, or like Tesla had tons of ideas that he got right. Da Vinci, if he was alive today,
Helicopter.
He'd be like, oh, helicopter, cool, nice work, guys.
Yeah.
But to do
Don't
that,
look at the other 42 pages. Don't make any sense.
Right. So, or maybe they do. Anyway.
Maybe they're coming.
Yeah, maybe they're coming next. So yeah, I think it's hard to know who got what right until it's done.
Yeah. What do you think the first application for your company will be? Because now that how many years into this are you? You're
5.5.
Now that you're 5.5 years into this, you got 50 people, you got a little bit of a burn rate. Is there a lot of tension inside the company or from investors to let's start applying? And do you feel ready to start applying stuff? And do you have clients yet? Do you have clients knocking on the door saying, hey?
We do have clients in the door. We have actually a couple of our investors are very large, like Samsung is an investor and ABB, the largest robotics company in the world, is an investor because they see ABB.
Never even heard of them.
Yeah. ABB Power and Automation, they're giant. They're, I don't know, $20, $30 billion
American
a year
company?
in revenue.
Chinese
No,
company?
Swiss company.
Swiss company.
Yeah, they make robots and a bunch of other things too.
Wow.
They make trains. They make robots and trains and power transformers and all kinds of stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're great. So, we have some of these corporate investors who we have projects underway with already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I can't announce yet, but we do have some things going on, and those will be some of our very first opportunities where you'll see our technology in the real world, and those are coming.
Interesting. So you're going to be applying it.
Yeah, but there's no pressure from our investors. Like our investors are signed up for the let's build AGI, and let's build it as fast as we can and as safely as we can, and that's.
Let's talk about that safety thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Elon is funded this. Did you go to that big symposium?
The Puerto Rico symposium.
The Puerto Rico. Yeah, I almost went to that.
You almost went to that?
Well, I wasn't invited, but 3 or 4 of my friends were going.
Okay.
And they're like, "You're interested in going?" I got to sort of maybe talk to the person doing it.
That
or
would
whatever.
be super weird if you were there.
Would it? Why?
Yeah, because it was all professors of artificial intelligence and
but I'm a the thing is the only reason I would be invited is because I'm a shit stirrer and I'm fun to be around, and I kind of it would be fun to have me at the bar afterwards, right? I'm just a fun guy to have around, but I wouldn't be contributing to the conversation. But you were there.
Yeah, it was a pretty serious thing. That's why I'm laughing.
What was the nature of it?
It was let's have a meeting of all the brightest minds in AI, and let's talk about what the future looks like, and let's talk about the right priorities for us to spend time and money researching.
Got it.
And so it was very academic.
Who led it? Who's the person on stage who says, okay, now you come up and talk? Or was it just one big giant round table?
The person on stage was the head of the Future of Life Institute.
Got
and
it.
you can read a comprehensive report about all the things that were discussed at the event online at the Future of Life Institute website. So just Google that. You can read all about it. It's incredibly dry academic stuff, as it should be for the phase of the science.
Got it.
So,
what was the most interesting part of that
That's another reason you wouldn't have had any fun, is because it was very.
No, trust me, I live for that stuff, man. I've gone. You underestimate me a little bit. I've gone to like weekend seminars with George Church, like going over like synthetic biology and like I'm into like
You're into it. You're into the hard tech. I love it.
I know nothing about it, but I pick up some stuff just by osmosis. But what was the highlight of that weekend for you? Like what, when you were watching all this go down, you said, wow, that was an interesting point that Sam Harris or Elon or whoever brought up.
The highlight for me. I mean, the whole thing I think was continuously a really good conversation about how should we as an industry focus our efforts, and what are the key questions we need to answer. And
got it.
My co-founder gave a great presentation about the kind of technical priorities at Vicarious. Demis from DeepMind gave a great presentation of the same thing at DeepMind.
I heard they figured something out at DeepMind where they had like a clock that figured out like it was a clock, and like
I have no idea.
Now somebody told me this story like, yeah, they had like a clock and it figured out like
that it was a clock.
That it was a clock. I was like, can you explain that to me? And they're like, no, I can't really. But that was like the sort of like idea. Like
I have no idea what that even means.
Just some of the, I don't know exactly what that means either, but it became somehow aware that its purpose was to tell time.
Okay.
And that like they had programmed the clock to try to figure out like if it could become sentient and figure out.
Sentient clock.
Basically, like if it would become aware of its surroundings and its purpose and stuff like that. I don't know this.
Was it
anecdote.
super depressed about being a clock, or was it like really excited? Did you see the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where the ship was terminally depressed?
Yes, I remember it vaguely, but yeah. So, what do you think Google is doing with DeepMind? Because this is, I hear like this is a big debate.
All their stuff. You can read about.
They publish what they're doing.
Almost all their research gets published each year in the different conferences. And
what do you guys riff off each other then? Like you see.
Well, we talk to them from time to time. It's not Are
you working on different things?
Yeah, I think it's different branches of the same tree.
Got it.
So our approach to how do you build AGI is of a different strategy than the DeepMind strategy. DeepMind's very much interested in reinforcement learning.
What does that mean, reinforcement learning?
We can go. There's a lot of tech stuff.
But yeah, give me the short version.
Yeah. The reinforcement learning is you take an action, you get a reward.
Sure.
And so you want to take actions that give you bigger rewards.
Okay, so it's Pavlov or Skinner
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting line of research, and that's kind of one of the areas of DeepMind focus. Ours is more on generative models, or I guess the term for you would be imagination. So we're really interested in imagination and mental simulation.
Wow, explain that. Well, why that's important.
Well, so there are more connections in your brain going from higher levels of your brain towards your eyes than the other direction.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Why is that? I would think that your eyes are processing so much that it's trying to send it all back.
No, it's going down.
It's going down to tell your eyes to go to places, to look at stuff?
No, not even that. Because a lot of that happens without you thinking about it.
So that's part of the sonomic.
So there's many theories about this, and part of my view on it is that it's in part about imagination. You're constantly guessing what's going to happen next, so that you're surprised. If I suddenly turn into broccoli or something, you're gonna be like, wow, I really didn't expect that to happen.
Right.
And that'll change your model of the world.
I probably shouldn't have taken the brown acid.
Right, exactly.
You are a piece of broccoli.
Jason.
You look delicious.
I'm so delicious. Anyway, so we at Vicarious, we focus on mental simulation and on imagination, which is just a different way of looking at it.
So you think you're gonna have simulations that'll be creative?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think creative is a good word for it.
How they approach problems and stuff.
And how they see the world. You're constantly being, like, for example, I can imagine where your hand is, even though I can't see it because it's behind your laptop.
Close.
So, yeah, exactly.
Close.
Oh, Jason.
So let's get back to the danger of AI. Because everybody respects Elon, obviously.
Right.
A lot because of his accomplishments, and he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
So Elon's like, hey, listen, this could quickly get out of control because by its nature, by the time between when it becomes sentient or it, becomes really smart, and the time it becomes absolutely dominant over us could be seconds or a week or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like Larry Page was like, I think Elon's making too big of a deal of it. Explain to me where you sit between Larry's not worried, Elon is funding, the rules of how to keep AI in the pen, so to speak.
Yeah.
Who's right, who's wrong?
I think they're both right.
Okay, I knew you would say that.
I think just like...
Where do you sit on it?
Well, look at it this way. At any moment, a giant asteroid could destroy the Earth.
It's a likely scenario, actually.
It's possible. Or at any moment, a supervirus, a genetically engineered supervirus, could wipe us all out.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so-
think those are probably the top, that and like Putin and Pakistan with nuclear weapons are kind of the biggest threats to the Earth.
So there's we live in a world where there's all kinds of stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
That involves technology that could cause a negative. And we have scientists who watch all the asteroids and make sure one isn't going to hit us, and they make plans about what to do if it looks like one might. Same thing with genetically engineered superviruses. And if you're really interested in it, you can read their technical reports. You can go to their conferences.
Yep.
And it's very dry. But it's important. Scientists do that.
Yeah.
And I think AI is a very similar thing where
Scenario planning.
you have to have scientists who study all these different things and who understand it deeply. And look, an important part of building any technology, from the invention of fire onwards, is to think about, okay, we're going to start a fire to cook our food and keep ourselves warm. How do we build it in a way that doesn't also like burn all of our clothes or whatever? You have to think about how do you build
create
it,
the nuclear bomb.
or like you're trying to build something, and part of the specification of the thing you're building is it needs to help me and do what I tell it to do and like behave in a way that I can predict. And I think that's an important part of developing technology, and that's a fundamental. And so Elon is right in the sense that there's all kinds of things that go wrong in the world, and AI is one of them. And we should have some scientists should be thinking about that, and some scientists are thinking about that. And that's a good thing.
What do you think the threat level, though, is? Like, at what point do you think, hey...
Puce. Threat level puce.
I don't
like
get the
orange.
reference.
Every day the security
right. No, not security. That was...
Fix a...
Yes. That very helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
To the people
plaid.
of Homeland Security.
Threat level plaid.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's meaningless. Like, what is the threat level? If you're listening to this podcast, you shouldn't be worried about this at all, is the threat level.
Exactly. It's almost like...
You should worry about this exactly as much as you worry about an asteroid destroying the Earth or a genetically engineered supervirus taking over all the cities. Like, it's something that scientists need to think about, and it's something that occurs on much longer timescales than Elon believes it will.
Yeah.
And it's part of the process
30,
of building
40, 50 years from now.
or whatever it is. It's just part of the process of building the thing we're building is making sure it's safe. And it's something that everybody who works on this knows about, takes seriously, is working on in some capacity, in the sense that you can't think about how to build a system without also thinking about how to get the system to do what you want it to do.
Yes. Except your point is that AGI is going to happen. And the asteroid
Because
may
people are
happen.
going to build it.
Yes. So it's a foregone conclusion in your mind that AGI is going to happen. So then how do you keep AGI safe? Because if it does become so generalized, it might have its own ideas, and you're making a creative, and that's part of the focus. It could have its own ideas that maybe are counter to what we want to do.
Or maybe it couldn't. Maybe a fundamental part of the design of the system is that it's actually incapable of having ideas that are damaging to humans.
Or the planet.
Or the planet, or whatever it is. Like
Or it checks with us first.
It checks with us first. Like there's all, look, you're a genius. You just came up with the solution to this problem. Just have it check with us first before it does anything that's going to hurt us. So anyway,
I love that. Well, I got that from RoboCop.
Okay, yeah.
Which is not that it checks with you, but the prime directive was like sort of. I think one of the prime directives said, "Will not harm." Whatever the name of the security company was, it wouldn't kill people from the security.
Are you
company.
ruining the movie for me? Don't tell me anything.
No, I
haven't seen it.
This would be a really great scene in a movie where it's like, "Sir, I figured out the cure for cancer," and you're like, "Oh, great! May I execute it?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Absolutely." Why don't you tell me what the solution is?
Yeah.
Well, I found something that we could put in the water system that would make nobody ever suffer from cancer again. And it's like, okay, great, do it. And then in the Twilight Zone episode, it's like, yes, we put something in that destroys our ability to feel pain, and for the rest of our lives, we'll never feel pain. Therefore, we'll never have the pain of cancer.
Right.
But then we all start touching stoves that are on, and we don't feel it. And we touch radiators that are on, and we have no pains.
Right. Or it's like the other one is the paperclip scenario where like the AI.
What's that?
The AI, you ask it to make a bunch of paperclips for you, and it turns the entire universe into paperclips because it doesn't know when to stop. Like
oh my God! You wake up and it's just like, "Sir, I took all the cornfields and."
Why do you make it sound so creepy? Also, Jason, like what is that?
Well, I'm trying to be cinematic here.
Okay.
It's gotta be.
So there are all kinds of scary scenarios you can tell yourself as you're falling asleep. But something to keep in mind is that if the AI system is smart enough to know how to like manufacture the entire universe into paper clips, it's also smart enough probably to figure out what it is you were actually asking it to do.
Yeah.
And have a mental model for your impersonations and your desires and what might actually not appeal to you at all.
Yeah. Just to clarify for a moment.
Yeah, like I just want to, like my mental model of you, Jason, is that you'd actually really like to be alive. Is that right?
Let me clarify. Humans take their lives and their lifespan extremely seriously, and they fear death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't turn everybody into paper clips.
Right. So anyway, I guess I don't want to be dismissive of this problem because it is real, but it's not real in the way I think the press portrays it.
Yeah.
It's a scientific problem that needs to be worked on and will be worked on as part of the process of building this thing.
Well, when do you think talking to computers? Do you have an Amazon Echo?
I have a Siri.
You have Siri, which is kind of not so good, I don't think. I don't know why I don't like Siri, but I love Amazon Echo.
You like Echo?
It's so good at like...
What do you use it for every day?
I got a big long list.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, number one, I'm sitting there with my daughter, and she says, "What does this word mean?" And I say, "Alexa, what does, confounding mean?" Okay. And Alexa reads me back the definition.
Great.
Awesome. Then I say, "Alexa, what's in the news?" And it plays me the news. Okay. And it's almost to the point where it's going to start personalizing it, I think, because it does add to the end weather in San Francisco, light personalization based on your IP address and other nonsense. Okay. Then I say, "Alexa, play the last episode of This Week in Startups." I don't do for This Week in Startups, but I say, "Alexa, play the last episode of the Joe Rogan podcast or the Tim Ferriss podcast," and it plays it, or on the media, without me ever having to type stuff in. Then I do, "Alexa, when I'm cooking, set a timer for 4 minutes. Alexa, set a second timer for 10 minutes when I'm doing like two different types of, and I'll be cooking 2 different days. I'm working two different days. I got the pasta over here and I got the shrimp over here. Boom. Then it also knows what you've previously ordered. So I say, "Alexa, reorder," and it knows what reorder is versus order. Order more coffee, and then it says, "Oh, you ordered this 8 o'clock coffee. Would you like another one?" Yes. So, and then I'm going to set up my calendar. You can set up your calendar now, and I've set it up with 2 different accounts, and I do audiobooks over it. So it's really just saving me like a bunch of navigation and clicks inside of my smartphone.
Yeah.
But those things are working really well so far.
That's cool.
And I do think it's going, and it does movie times now too, which we've done a couple times. But I think, "Alexa, buy us tickets to the next showing of, this movie, not in 3D, within 5 miles of the house." That stuff is coming. I mean, it's like 6 months. Right now, it's telling you the movie times.
I can imagine it being useful, and I just haven't.
Wickedly good.
Yeah.
It's something about it being persistently on.
Do you have an affiliate link?
I would love to give you one, but it'll only be $8. But it's such a good product because one of the things that people don't understand about why it's so good is that it's got like 7 or 8 speakers, microphones rather, on it. Yeah. So when you're across the room or upstairs and you say it, it gets it. And it gets it very clearly, which the iPhone doesn't. Yeah. It just doesn't feel like the Siri technology is dialed in. And one's an open platform where anybody can go into the Alexa API, and Siri is like kind of a closed platform.
They should really open the Siri platform.
It's so dumb. It's open platform wins. I know that you're Apple, but
come on,
you know this.
Right. The App Store. Come on.
The App Store is an open platform. Why wouldn't Siri be an open platform? Like, just open the fucking thing up, and let people do it. But it's something about talking to computers and then having it talk back to you seems like it's going to be the winning interface, don't you think?
Yeah, I think at first that's absolutely going to be part of it. Just being able to hey, can you make me a cup of coffee?
Yeah, but there's going to be something about artificial intelligence plus talking to it. When you go back and forth, you can go faster.
Yeah. Conversation is great.
The conversation, when are we going to start conversing with computers, you think, where AI plays a part there?
Well, I think this is the year of the bots, really. Yeah. There's tons of bot companies. There's lots of excitement going on around Facebook's M and Google Now and all these other services. Amazon Echo. Yeah. All these bots. I think bots are awesome. Narrow AI bots are terrific. Yeah. And you need to hook in some general AI in order to accomplish simple tasks like cooking that spaghetti for you. But, we're getting there.
This is going to be the job of the future, I think. We talk about jobs. I think there's going to be a bot transition where they'll just hire a large number of people to anonymize data and be the human interface between the bot. So my understanding of X.AI and and other stuff is they have a human looking at it and saying yeah, we got this right. Yeah, we got this right. But what's very interesting about the Echo is there's a companion app on your phone, and it shows you your feed of what you've asked it to do, and it tells you the words. "Alexa, play on the media." Yeah. Did I get this right? Yes or no? say no, and it's what went wrong, and then you explain it. So like when you're playing music, when you say, Alexa, play Spotify, Blood on the Tracks, and it does, you don't say the word album.
Yeah.
And it plays a track called Blood on the Tracks by some
Random.
EDM artist who got inspired by Dylan.
Right.
Instead of playing Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. Like, no, you didn't get it right. I wanted the album Blood on the Tracks. Then the next time, some human's going to say, when differentiating between these and disambiguation, ask them, do they want the album or the EDM track, right?
Right.
Like, this stuff is really, the humans...
Sort of like AI psychologists or trainers or something is like the next line of work.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a field of AI optimizers.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That sort of makes sense, especially when we're dealing with these narrow AIs. That there's a lot of if-then.
Yeah.
That there's all these little details you have to get right. I can see that.
It's almost teachers.
Yeah, AI teachers. There it is. That's
They're
good.
AI teachers.
AI teachers.
They're going to teach the bots how to do it. Because you do that now, right? You look at the data and...
Well, we're more interested in AIs that teach themselves, really.
That's right, yeah.
The bots, you need that kind of logic in a bot.
What's an example of somebody you... what's an example of something you taught it to do, your instances, your simulations, that showed like some unique creativity?
Creativity is an interesting one. So we haven't demoed any of the creative stuff yet. That'll be coming soon.
But it has done creative stuff.
Yeah, it does creative stuff.
Really?
But like the
wow, that's how many years in did it take it to where you were like, oh my God, it did something creative? What was that moment like? You had to know the moment where it was like, that feels creative to me.
I think of it much more like the first flight was not surprising.
It wasn't that surprising.
It wasn't surprising at all. Like they were like, oh yeah, like they've made these refinements to the lateral stability of the wings, and now it's staying aloft longer, and they have more control and all these things. So it's a very focused scientific incremental process that the end results, when it does work, it's more surprising actually when it doesn't work. Because you're like, oh, I thought that was going to work, and I wonder what it did, and then you dig into it and you understand, oh, I see what it's doing. I understand why this isn't working.
Okay, without telling me what it is, if I saw this creative, like the last creative thing it did, would I be like, oh, would it be like a wow moment for me?
I think so. I think you'd appreciate it, and it's something we'll be disclosing in the next, in the time ahead. I don't know exactly when it'll be.
Yeah.
But like I can give you an example from a long time ago. When it started seeing animals in the clouds. Would be an example.
Wow.
Was a cool example of something it can do.
So you told it what animals were through photos.
And it's never seen anything in the clouds before. We just showed it clouds, and it's like, oh, I see a duck. I see a bunny.
So literally, your instance just smoked a doob, laid in the grass, and started seeing animals in the sky.
Childlike. We're going to go for childlike.
Childlike, or stoned. And you guys are, That's fascinating. So it could figure out that the cloud in some way looked like a frog or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
And it could show you, like, when you ask it to explain itself, it could be like, okay, so here's where the hand is, and here's where the eye of the frog is, and
so genius.
Yeah, it could trace the outline of it and all that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, listen, I could talk to you for hours about this. What have we learned today? Scott's incredible at raising money. Vicarious is going to be doing stuff with their partners. We're going to see some actual product and services embedded in other partners' products like Samsung or whoever.
Yeah, let me throw in an ask too. So if you're listening to this and you know someone who's interested in these problems, send them to Vicarious, because we're always looking for brilliant, motivated people who are keen on building the last invention with us. So.
What does it take to get hired at a place like this? Because you have unlimited resources, seemingly, and that means you get to pick a little litter, and you pay very well, I'm assuming, and you've got the most interesting work on the planet for a very smart person.
It's very competitive.
So, I mean, this is like an incredible place to go. What does it take to get the job there? What does a typical person look like who works there? PhD, master's, computer science?
The majority of them have their PhD. There's some people with masters or with even undergrad degrees, if they're really exceptional. And it's from a variety of fields. It could be everything from machine learning to neuroscience to probabilistic graphical models to computer vision. And they come from all different schools. So we have 15 countries represented.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's a very diverse group, and we look for people who are exceptional. And it doesn't need to be at one narrow thing. We're looking for people who are really broad in their interests and can adapt to new models and new ways of thinking. Because I think diversity of perspectives is one of the things that really helps you get a new angle on a problem.
especially for a problem that's the problem of our species and like a one-time life-changing event. You kind of have to have some ability. I mean, I hate to use thinking outside the box, but you have to have a lot of different people looking at this problem from different angles, because the answer for the black swan question of our species is probably going to be hard to anticipate.
True. Yeah, it's true. And there's a lot of different ways to draw inspiration, ways to reformulate problems in order to be able to solve them better. And so that's something that I think a lot of the people on our team really bring.
What's the culture like over there? What's the culture at a company that's doing this kind of like basic research that could just change humanity?
Well, I think there are actually a surprising number of companies that are doing, like look at StemCentrix, right? That I'm sure you saw the acquisition, $10-11 billion for StemCentrix.
Yeah, and that's the cancer stem cell.
That's the cancer stem cell treatment company. And they were doing fundamental basic science research and how do you solve an unsolvable problem. So I think there is a blueprint and a playbook for how do you organize yourselves and what are the right goals to set and so on.
This is a great moment for Silicon Valley, I think, when they got bought. That basic science is matters and getting rewarded because universities are such a dysfunctional place to do this.
They really are. That's one of the reasons why we started Vicarious and didn't just do it at university, is because universities are really dysfunctional.
Everybody's incented by the wrong things there.
Yeah.
What's tenure? What does this even mean, tenure?
It's true.
I'm working my whole time to kiss people's asses so that I can get this tenure thing so I can not have to worry about getting fired for not working.
And also, by the way, you can only publish positive results. So like if you take a risk on some new type of system and it doesn't work, you're screwed. You don't get to publish anything. And it looks like you haven't done anything for the last N months or years.
You're hoping people just absolutely just crash and burn with an experiment and find out definitively this is not going to work.
Right.
Because you can eliminate it.
Yeah, negative results are incredibly valuable, but they're not celebrated, broadly speaking, in the academic community. I mean, there's some cases where they are, but it's hard.
Yeah, we knocked on this door, nobody answered. We kicked the door down, there's nobody there. Mm-hmm. Like, really good thing to learn when you're trying to build creativity and artificial intelligence, if you can narrow that down. All right. Usually first name at the company's name tends to go to the founder. I'm just saying, Scott works at vicarious.org, .com, sorry, .org. And continued success. I mean, it's really great stuff, and we're going to be watching it. AI it's just fascinating, man. You're in like the thick of it.
It is such a gift to be able to work on this problem.
It really is. Like, just think, like, people are going to watch this interview like 20 years from now, and you guys are going to like create something that destroys the planet, and we're going to be sitting here.
Absolutely not.
I'm joking. You're going to create something that might cure cancer.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's completely possible that the biggest problems we face as a species will be solved by a platform like Vicarious. Like you build some platform that will then go and rev on a problem for 30,000 lifetimes of a typical scientist.
Exactly. That's the promise.
In 10 seconds.
That's why it matters.
It matters.
Not just for Vicarious, for all the people who are working on AI. I think it's such an important problem.
God, it's going to be amazing what things we're going to solve.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think, like, if you just think about cancer, both my parents are cancer survivors. My dad, prostate, and my mom, breast cancer. Those would have been death sentences for their parents, and they were, in fact. And forget about their parents' parents. I mean, they just wouldn't have gotten out of the plagues, right?
Yeah.
So you had like two or three generations ago, you died by plague. Mm-hmm. We figured that out with vaccines. The last generation died from cancer. Mm-hmm. No hope of treatment. Now this generation, we've got treatment dialed in.
Yeah.
You catch it early, you live decades more.
Right.
That in alone is just phenomenal in terms of a generational shift.
Yeah.
Now you go one more generation from ours, and hopefully we catch some of this. Mm-hmm. But we're the last generation that sees our parents like us, and maybe we could get some treatments that would actually reverse it.
Maybe. That's part of the promise.
That's unbelievable when you think about it. We could actually reverse a cancer or just totally avoid it and turn it off on a DNA level. Or
be phenomenal.
It's possible, right? Do you think it's possible?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any physics reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. It just takes a lot of science.
How close do you think? Our kids are not going to have to deal with cancer, right?
Oh, I have no idea. Everyone who guesses it, this is wrong. So
I wonder what people who died of cancer, when the scientists said, like, we think we can actually take out tumors, we think we can use therapies to make people live, 10, 20, 30 years after getting cancer. I wonder how historically they were reacted to? Somebody's got to be able to look that up. Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, this is a really interesting question. If you went to the literature when people said, we think we can extend people's lifespans after if we find prostate cancer, if we find breast cancer, we think we can make them live 20, 30 years. Somebody was saying that in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s that we can,
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these great scientific endeavors they always start out sounding kind of weird.
Yeah.
And people are dubious of them. And I think that actually is a good thing. I think that you if you make extraordinary claims, you need extraordinary proof. And so it seems like a functioning, part of reality. So how much time do we have left?
As much as we have interesting things to say, which I think is about 2 more hours. But go ahead.
Okay. Because I
could go forever here. I mean,
back in 2008, I went through the Y Combinator program, as you probably saw.
2008 you went through.
2008, yeah, way back in the day. And I know you
that was like maybe the 5th or 6th class, right?
Yeah, it was very early. It was very early.
Yeah.
And I know you run an incubator here.
Yeah, I got a small incubator. Yeah.
Small incubator.
7 people, yeah.
And I just wanted to hear, what is your take on incubators generally and on what's happened in Silicon Valley in the last 2 or 3 years?
Well, this is not my first time at the Dog and Pony show here. I started in the industry in 93, 94, 95 when the internet was first starting. Back then, it was very hard to start a company. Very limited people had access to venture capital. Venture capitalists were all like a boys' club of people who went to, Harvard Business School and whatever. Their pop was in the business, whatever. So now you just have so many different people starting experiments. So when you think about it like in artificial intelligence experiments, I look at, the 200 people who go through Y Combinator or through my incubator or in Silicon Valley, and they burn through 250 or 1 million as just these little satellites we sent into space. Mm-hmm. Most of the satellites that go out, in this metaphor, they don't find anything.
Yeah.
Fine. It was a $250K experiment. It was $1 million experiment. But when you hit something like Uber or Thumbtack and some of the things I've been lucky to hit, or they hit Airbnb, Airbnb, if they own 6% of it and it becomes a $100 billion company, it's $6 billion to Paul Graham and the team over there. Mm-hmm. It pays for every other startup that's ever been funded by them times 3.
Yeah.
If they wind up spending.
Will be.
Or ever will be. Yeah. They might wind up spending, if they wind up doing 1,000 companies and they put 100. Yeah, if they do 1,000 and 100,000 into each or something, I mean, you can start doing the math, like it's $1 billion or whatever it is. It's like, no big deal.
Yeah.
So there is a sense of entitlement, and there are people who don't take it seriously when you have a free-flowing experiment like Silicon Valley is right now. And you do get some entitlement on the other end where people just think they're Uber or Airbnb, and they're not. Mm-hmm. Like Theranos maybe or whatever, and they're just entitled to tons of money to just go crazy with it. But overall, this experiment is sub $100 billion, sub $250 billion. You compare it to everything else going on that the United States spends money on.
Yeah.
The amount of value being created out here is just extraordinary. So all the losses mean nothing compared to the transformative impact of a company like Uber or Google or Facebook.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. It's like every 7 years you get the Uber, the Facebook, or the Google. Mm-hmm. They make up for
all the experiments.
All the experiments, times 10,000.
Yeah.
The value Google has put towards humanity, that Facebook has put towards humanity, and that Uber will put towards humanity, is in the process of putting towards humanity. Just think about that.
It's enormous.
Access to information, Google.
Yeah.
Transformative. Facebook, access to other individuals and the planet communicating with each other, invaluable. Mm-hmm. Transportation, moving people and things around the world efficiently and giving and democratizing it for everybody. Uber. Just those 3 things, information, communications, transportation. 3 companies have solved and leaped forward at humanity decades in their execution.
That's what I love about living here. It's just, it's incredible. So I got energy for one more question.
Go ahead. Now you're interviewing me. I like this.
No.
This is interesting.
I have energy to answer one more question.
Oh, okay.
I could ask you one question.
Okay, go ahead.
No. I don't have.
Oh, you have time for one more.
I have time for one more question.
Time for one more question. You're 5 years into this.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently in terms of starting over? If you could go back in time and talk to yourself 5 years ago, you'd say, forget all this other stuff, focus on this. This is what's important in AI.
That's a really good question.
And think about it for a second, like figure out in your mind, and be honest, because you know what, you probably have it right in your head right now, and you're like, I don't know if I should say that publicly on this thing, it's because it's about 100,000 people, but say it anyway. Be blunt, be candid.
You sound like Jason. I feel very comfortable answering these kinds of questions. So for us, what I think I would have done, in hindsight's always 20/20, is I think I would have been more bold and taken more risks along the way. So when I started Vicarious with my co-founder, my expectation was it was going to be a slog. We went all the way up and down Sand Hill Road, and we had like 3 people interested in investing in us.
Out of how many you visited?
Out of
50?
15 or 20 or something.
50, right, yeah.
And so
1 out of 5, not bad.
yeah, well, but like the other one, the no's that we got from the other ones weren't just like, oh, this is look interesting, but not a fit for us.
It was
just like, it was a hard no. It was a
fuck out.
It was like
Get
it
outta
was
here.
like AI. You're trying to build strong AI. This is when Groupon was the thing. They're like, tell me about daily deals. Like I want to talk about daily deals, and I'm like, no. We want to
Get
work
me a
on
yoga class for $7.
Yeah. We want to work on humanity's most important problem, and only a couple people actually wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was going to change. I didn't know that people would start caring about the future, and that people would start caring about AI as much as they have.
Yeah.
And so
You could have gone faster, harder.
I wintered up. And I made
wintered up, yeah.
I made
Buckle
sure
down.
that we could be in it for the long haul. We could have 10 years of runway. We could just really work on it while everybody else was focused on daily deals. We could actually be solving the science, and so that was my focus. And I think that, hindsight's 20/20, but if I had perfect future vision and I'd known, actually people are going to figure out that AI really matters and they're going to figure it out in the next 5 years, then I think I would have played a much more aggressive game in the last 5. But then again, if people were still focused on daily deals or some other variant of like that, and they just didn't care about AI still, then I would have been like, yeah, I did it right. Because the last thing you want to do is run out of money. You can always spend
Honestly,
too slow.
like I've seen many people piloting these planes.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, I can get through that storm.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Plane gets hit by lightning, whatever happens, the turbulence, the plane comes apart, boom,
Yeah.
whole thing's a wash.
Yep.
So you know what? Sometimes slowing down, going around the storm, taking the longer route, being a little conservative, it's okay because, it keeps you focused. When these teams get big, you have a 50-person team, you got to assign people to stuff.
Yeah.
It becomes a thing of how you're assigning resources and how people are getting along. It's really magical when you have those 10 people and you're focused on one thing, and it's,
and it is, and it really worked for us. And again, this is only the choice I would make if I had perfect future information.
Correct.
If you're asking me, Scott, you have imperfect information. People might still love Groupon.
Yeah.
In 5 years, and they might still be obsessed with consumer short money kinds of.
Throw a filter on it.
Yeah.
Photo
Yeah,
apps.
throw a filter on it.
Throw a filter on
Put
it.
in it. So if people were still obsessed with that, then I would absolutely have played it the same way I did. So I feel pretty good in that regard.
I think you could sell to, this would be a great use of AI in the short term. The ability to tell people which selfie and what filter to put on it would get the
inside.
most likes and get the most swipe rights.
I am just dying inside as you say this. It's true.
You would get so much money if you could create an app that would let people take a selfie of themselves, and then it would get the more swipes. Is it right that gets you a date or left? I don't know. Award-winning producer Jackie, tell me if it's swipe right or swipe left. I don't know. But if you could get swipe right must be yes. Because left is like get out of here. Right.
This is cancer.
That's it.
This is cancer.
Why solve cancer when you could solve
swipe right.
for increasing the number of swipe rights?
Yep. Okay.
Put a filter on it. All right, listen, everybody check out Vicarious.com. If you know somebody, if you happen to be brilliant, great. Email Scott and
Don't
the
email
jobs
me,
page.
apply using the
Apply.
jobs
I'm sorry.
page.
Apply through the
Seriously.
proper things.
You'll automatically get permabanned if you email me.
Yes. Go do it the right way. Don't do it the way I'm telling you.
Actually, email Jason. If I don't reply, email Jason.
Exactly. Thank you, Jason. First name @ go to Vicarious. If you know somebody brilliant, tell them to go to Vicarious. It's the world's counting on you. Let's leave it at that. All right. Listen, Scott, great guest, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.